Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. We often talk about number 3 here on the show, and if you're a movie fan, especially a comic book movie fan, you know exactly what we're talking about. Number 3s can be tragic. The third film in the franchise can be an absolute, immeasurable, unthinkable, freaking train wreck. And we've talked about a lot of them here on the show, kids. But we've also, to be more positive, we've also talked about plenty of number 2s that have been quite awesome, quite great, actually. Empire Strikes Back, maybe one of the earliest examples of that. You know, Spider-Man 2, X-Men 2, right? I mean, there's plenty of great examples out there that you could point to. A lot of great movies, a lot of great comic franchises that you can point to that, you know, again, maybe part 2 was better than the first, possibly on the same level. Then you get to part 3 and it all falls apart. Well, we mentioned X-Men already. You guys can read, can't you? You know what we're doing here today. X-Men Days of Future Past. And yes, as a reminder on the last episode, I did say I could have sworn we had done this episode. We had not. I have ghost episodes of the 6M in my head, kids. I have entire episodes that I thought we had done that I would have sworn that we had done. Remembered having conversations. Then I go check. Those episodes never happened. Yes. So that's Mandela effect. I think someone out there is resetting time. Who knows? Maybe the X-Men are doing it. We got a lot to get to, kids. This was quite a fun movie. Can't wait to hear Phil's take. We have not discussed this off mic at all, period. So this will be a fresh episode, fresh take for the two of us. But before we tackle it, let's do this. X-Men Days of Future Past is a 2014 superhero epic directed by Bryan Singer. It was released on May 23, 2014, and was produced by 20th Century Fox with Marvel Entertainment. The film unites characters from both the original X-Men trilogy and the First Class prequel era. Based on the classic Marvel Comics storyline, the film follows a desperate plan to send Wolverine's consciousness back to 1973 to prevent the rise of the Sentinel program, a future-killing machine designed to eradicate mutants and humans alike. The narrative blends a dystopian future with Cold War-era intrigue as heroes old and new collide in a high-stakes effort to rewrite history. With a production budget of around $200 to $205 million, it grossed approximately $746 million worldwide, making it one of the franchise's biggest commercial successes and a defining moment in X-Men cinematic storytelling. And that is your lowdown for X-Men Days of Future Past. So Phil, through the magic of editing, the kids won't know I butchered that intro twice, but it sounds good on the third time. So as we go into part 2 here today, we both had definite set of opinions on part 1. What's your take overall on part 2 coming into this review here today?
I really like this movie. I think it is possibly one of the best X-Men movies. It definitely has its flaws, like most of the Fox X-Men franchise. But I think there's enough good here for me to look past some clear like studio decisions. I think if anything, my main gripe with this movie, before I get into what I really like about it, is that I wish it was just a direct sequel to First Class. Because First Class left off in such a great place, and there was so much potential for this franchise moving forward. And I almost feel like there's a movie to be made in between First Class and Days of Future Past that would have been really good. And there's so much that they kind of like rushed into by this movie that doesn't feel earned. But again, that doesn't really kill my interest in the movie. It's just one of those things where it's like, well, you made this other movie that got me interested in the younger versions of all these characters, and then you kind of move them along quickly without giving us the story in between this.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we missed a big chunk of whatever it was that was supposed to have happened. Like they allude to it a few times because this is like 10 years in the future from where we were in X Men First Class. But yeah, is a sizable chunk missing. So we speculated last week, Phil. The reason for that was they wanted to get the stars back in it, that kind of thing. I mean, could that have been saved for possibly a third movie, like you do Days of Future Past as part three, like you said, instead of part two?
Yeah, I think that I think for my personal taste, I would have liked if they'd done that. But
Mhm.
this is clearly one of those. Again, Avengers changed everything. When you
Mm.
can do something with this big, massive ensemble cast and do like this big crossover event of bringing all of these characters from singles movies together in one movie and make $1 billion, then Fox is looking around like, hey, I want to make some of that money.
Mm.
Um, let's bring back some of the old cast members. Let's put them together in one movie. This could be a big thing, and the concept, because we had the initial X-Men movies and then the prequels, the concept in itself is really great, and I
Mhm.
think that they did a lot of good with it. Um, like I said, I just kind of wish we got a direct sequel to First Class as well, though.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I got to tell you, man, coming straight into this, I enjoyed this movie, but I enjoyed First Class as well. Like, it does have its flaws, it does have its holes here and there, but overall, I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
I definitely like this one better, and not because the original cast was back. Although I thought they were handled pretty well, but I don't know. I found myself just enjoying this one more. Maybe it's just the Wolverine effect.
Yeah, you can't get around the fact that this movie very much feels like a mulligan for Bryan Singer as well.
Mm,
Uh, there's a lot of what ifs around what X3 would have been if he didn't go off and make Superman Returns,
yeah.
and if they just waited for him to make the movie he wanted to make. I mean, of course, when you get past Bryan Singer and a lot of the things he's being accused of, um, he did end off on a great note with X2. X2 was
Mm,
a great movie, and X3 was a complete and utter letdown. Uh,
terrible.
so yeah, I could see him and the studio wanting a mulligan off of that, and I think that this movie did a lot to make up for how terrible X3 was. I don't know
Mm.
if it totally made up for it, but it tried very hard.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, look, kids, if we're going to link this all the way back, much of the credit for this movie is placed at the feet of Lauren Schuler Donner, who back in 2006 said the continuation of the X Men main film scenes will require a renegotiation, and that new cast members of X Men: The Last Stand were, ready or signed, and while the older cast members were not. And at the time, she said, "quote There's 40 years worth of stories I've always wanted to do, Days of Future Past, and there are just really a lot of stories yet to be told." End quote. So it kind of begins with her, and then we get going from there. Originally, it was supposed to be Matthew Vaughn was supposed to be back to direct, and Singer was not supposed to be. He was supposed to be acting like a thing, the producer capacity. But of course, as we said, that flipped, and things kind of snowballed from there. I mean, this franchise has such a rich history, Phil. So many stars, so many storylines, so many films now that you can clip and make a movie like Days of Future Past feel like it has real continuity, real stakes, a real history behind it, which I thought was very cool. Getting into the plot, because we're gonna touch the cast here in a second. One of the first questions I had, because I haven't watched this film in a good long time, one of the questions I had right off the bat was, why didn't they just go back earlier than Bolivar Trask? Like, would that have made more sense to you, or did they go back at the exact right time?
I think it's fine. I think maybe you could make the argument maybe they should have gone back sooner and tried to reason with Mystique before she was too far gone.
Mm.
Um, or, tried to go back closer to the events of the first movie
Mhm.
before it got so bad.
Yeah, it occurred to me as I was watching, I'm like, if Shadow Cat Kitty Pryde can take him back to any point, why not just go back to, like, I'm not saying go back and kill Hitler as a baby. Nothing like not too extreme, but if you can go back to any point in time, it seemed interesting, like, well, we had to stop the Sentinels. Yeah, but couldn't you go back further than that? I mean, I don't know. I guess it worked for the sake of the film, but anytime we talk about time traveling here and decisions are made and for characters to go back at a certain time, we're often left wondering why didn't they just go back earlier? So I guess that's kind of where my head was.
Yeah, if you read the original comic, it's kind of hard to understand initially why Kitty just didn't go back in time.
Yeah, right. Yes.
And because that was such a great opportunity to do more with Ellen Page, because I felt like that was kind of one of the disappointments from X3 is that they did cast such a great actress to play Kitty Pryde, and then I don't think they did enough with her. And so you had a chance to come back and do more with this character, and they were like, "Nope, you're getting more Wolverine," because of course the studio doesn't want to not do anything with their darling.
Mhm.
And I mean, even when I pulled up the movie to watch it on Disney Plus, and it's Days of Future Past, and it's Wolverine and Mystique, and it's like, yep, Hugh Jackman, Jennifer Lawrence, big cash cows. We're gonna focus this movie around two of these characters, even if it doesn't make the most sense. Um,
Yeah.
and so Wolverine gets a lot of screen time, of course, like the first movie in this prequel, like First Class. Jennifer Lawrence gets a lot of screen time as well because it's Jennifer Lawrence, and you're probably paying her a lot of money. Um, but yeah, I did think it was kind of funny that they completely changed everything around. Don't send Kitty back into the past. Has to be Wolverine. And um, oh, I don't know. How do they come up with like the technology to like uh create new Sentinels? It has to be Mystique, right? Got to be centered around Mystique.
Of course. And by the way, they had the technology to build these 8 massive Sentinels in 1973. Like, even without her DNA, they had the technology to physically build these things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's not like I really bumped into um the stuff with the Sentinels in the future because I do think it's kind of a brilliant workaround
Yeah.
to make the Sentinels into basically adaptoids. Um, it is very funny that they were like, nope, we're gonna center the main plot around Mystique and Wolverine again.
Yeah, and I all due respect to Jennifer Lawrence, I've never been a huge fan. Um, I think she was fine in the first film. I don't think she, broke any new ground. I don't know that she broke any new ground here. As I said, I think she's fine. But yeah, we got to see a whole lot of her, and I don't mean the naked version with the blue paint either, kids. I'm talking, we got to see her in her actual form quite a bit through this movie. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I liked more of what she was asked to do this time around because
Mm.
Mystique should be basically an assassin. And
Yeah.
so a lot of what she does here works. I'm not a big fan of them going back and forth with her though. Like going from her leaving Charles in first class to by the second movie, she's already second guessing it. And by the end, she has her redemption arc. And it's like, well, why did we do any of that to begin with then if you were just gonna undo it by the second movie?
Yeah, we know she's gonna end up going back to him. Like, you know what I realized between this movie and the last movie both, we've got a lot of moments of, "You don't have to do this." And the other character goes, "Nah, yeah, I do," and they go do it. There's a lot of that in these 2 movies.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think that's why I wish we had a second movie here because there's such a drastic jump for some of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from the first movie into this movie, we get the idea that um, Mystique sees Magneto's point. By the time we get the movie, she's already left his side and she's off on her own. We don't get
Yeah.
any of the development between there. It's just like, oh, we're already past that and off to her being on her own and second guessing her decision to leave Charles. Um, what I surmised was going to happen after First Class and all of the other mutants that left with Magneto, um, this was not going to end well for them, and it didn't end well for them.
No, he got them all killed. Maybe he didn't, but they all got themselves killed or something.
Yeah, it didn't end well for all of them, and that was really Charles's point all along: is that you don't see that war is going to doom us all, and you keep saying like, "Oh, I have to do this for the betterment of my people." No, you don't see that once you make us the enemy, a lot of our people are going to die.
Yeah.
And he was exactly right. And further to the point, everything you've done has escalated things where they now feel like they have to invent weapons to destroy us.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still not seeing that.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes the scene on the plane so great when Magneto is like, "Where were you, Charles? You were hiding." And
Mhm.
again, it's where on the surface it's like, well, wait a minute, he's right. Like he was trying to offer a solution. Meanwhile, Charles was just sulking in his failures and he didn't try to help at all. But then when you think about it longer, it's like, well, wait a minute. All of this is happening because of you. If
Mhm.
you had just listened to Charles in the first movie, um, none of this would have happened. He wouldn't have been paralyzed. Um, all of them that went off alone with you to go and do your crusade against the human race, they would possibly still be alive.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I saw Magneto's point in the first one. I think he came off not as the hero, of course, but I think he came off very credible with his points. I think they made a lot of sense. I sympathize with the character because his mother was killed. All that got reversed by this movie. He was absolutely in the wrong through the whole film. He comes off like the villain. He comes off, and the character still believes he's right, of course.
Yes.
I was not on board this time with Magneto at all.
Yeah. I mean, because you see immediately when it gets to this movie, he, for everything that he says, everybody else is expendable to him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Mystique, when he figures out that oh, that's how they create the Sentinels, he tries to kill her.
Yeah. By the way, if you're a villain, it's not the worst plan in the world. But also, I thought you cared about your own kind. I thought you talked about sticking together. This was a brotherhood, and you're just going to turn on her like that. How do we know he didn't kill the others? By the way.
Yeah. Yeah. It just shows that yeah. I mean, which we saw in the original trilogy as well. That he talked so much about brotherhood and how much he cared about his people, but if anybody sided against him, then they had to go. Or if he saw anybody as expendable or in his way, he wouldn't even give it a second thought.
Yeah, not at all.
And it just shows just how how flawed he is as a character. And I think you're right. Like a lot of what he says in the first movie is a lot more convincing. He's a lot more sympathetic in the first movie. And I think that's part of why First Class works so well. It works very well as his origin movie. But I also think that that's why if we got really a gradual point of him becoming more and more narcissistic and villainous by the end of the second movie, before we got this movie, it wouldn't have felt this jarring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It wouldn't have been such a 1 and 2. Yeah, for sure. The dystopian future that we talked about, kids, as we know, the way this movie begins, it's a grim future for our heroes, where the Sentinels, and of course, as Phil said, they are adaptive. They're mutant hunting machines. They have decimated mutant kind and humans as well, of course, and the remaining X-Men survivors, including Iceman, Blink, Colossus, Shadowcat, of course, and for the first time, Bishop. This world-ending vision sets the stakes and the emotional tone throughout the entire film. We have to talk about Bishop. Bishop has been maybe my favorite X-Man for years. This is Omar Sy as Bishop. We didn't get a whole lot of him, Phil, but I loved it. Like, I've been here for Bishop for a long time. I'm glad we finally got to see him. It's very cool that we saw him here. Why in the world did we not revisit this character later on, I wonder?
Yeah, big fan of Bishop as well. You cannot do any X-Men film set in the future and not use Bishop, or at least use Cable. So I was glad to see him here. If you would have had to ask me at the time when X2 came out, how can you possibly top an opening with like Nightcrawler in the White House? Because it's so good. And Singer really topped it with the opening to this movie, and the future X-Men trying to escape from their base, and the Sentinels are just like one by one going through there and slaughtering them. It's so brutal. It's so cool. We didn't get to see the X-Men cut loose like this in the original trilogy. The effects weren't quite there yet, and yeah, this is great. Like seeing Iceman, like full on covered in ice, doing the ice slides. Just so much stuff to like about it. Blink is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's great. And like you said, Bishop is Bishop here. I wish we had seen more of him. That is really my only gripe. I thought that he was cast well. I thought he looks great. I mean, really, they did as much as they could with the future X-Men to give us as many like great action set pieces with them. And I came away being like, man, I kind of want to see more of them because there was some of the coolest stuff in the movie. Them in these hopeless fights against the Sentinels. The effects for the Sentinels were great. How they were just like adapting to everything they were doing and just like running through this base unfazed, killing them. Like, it was incredibly like off-putting and sad, but then like at the same time it was such fun action scenes that was like, oh, like wait, they went back in time? Oh, we could possibly see more of that.
Yes. Because it's a story that just keeps on giving. And like now with the multiverse, you could really have some fun with it too.
Yeah. The opening scene of this movie was so good. I mean, if nothing else, like I said, all the flaws of this movie aside, like all of this stuff with like the future X-Men is really great. Even Xavier's monologue at the beginning is fantastic.
Great. Yeah. We had Fan Bingbing as Blink. And of course, Sean Ashmore is back as Bobby Drake / Iceman, being here from the start since the first movie. So it was cool to see him back. Elliot Page as Kitty Pryde, as you mentioned. Yeah, really, really good stuff. I mean, it's what's interesting, and we know, of course, that we're talking about James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender as Professor X and Erik Lehnsherr and Magneto, respectively. What's funny is that Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart both thought they were done. They had handed over the reins to McAvoy and Fassbender until Singer approached them while they were on tour with, I think, a drama company doing a play of some sort, and pitched them the idea, and they were truly shocked. They said yes, of course, but they were shocked that they were coming back. Maybe that plays into your point about, yep, this became another franchise's movie really quickly. So,
yeah, big mulligan.
Right. Yeah, crazy. By the way, real quick, I mean, I'm sitting here in my head going through like other movie villains. Sentinels, I believe, could kill the T-1000. I don't think it'd be that much trouble. But like, what else could they kill? Like, what could a Sentinel kill in like terms of movies? Alien? Can they kill the aliens in Alien? Like, if they can adapt to anything, what in the world could possibly take them out? Thor's hammer, maybe, just by the sheer force of. But you know what? Then it would turn into, what's the hammer made of? Uru, I think, whatever that metal is. Like, it would just absorb the hammer. These are some crazy, indestructible villains, man.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this man, Poor Colossus. I think he took the worst of that beating in opening.
Big time, yeah.
I mean, the way the Sentinel just like pulls up on him and just like does that underhand punch and just knocks him down to the ground like he's nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, and Iceman got his head crushed twice, man.
Yeah.
That was vicious. Yeah, I'm with you. The opening scene is fantastic. I mean, it's pretty cool that even though they're all getting killed and Magneto finally dies, and we're pretty sure Professor X is about to eat it next until Wolverine saves the day with the time travel. It was pretty cool to see that at the end they were together. But it does make you wonder, if not for that Avengers Doomsday movie where we get a clip of that, something similar to that, because we do, would they have ended up together in the end? Or do they only end up together in this other timeline because the Sentinels had taken over? It's kind of a weird, what if scenario, I suppose.
Yeah, not sure. Yeah, I thought that they made a great use of the concept of the dystopian future and the future
Yeah.
X-Men, and just the desperation in those scenes is so good. Like continuing to stall, trying to save their future, and of course, like again, if you read the original comic, like they're really stretching this storyline for an entire movie.
Mhm.
But I thought that they made a good use of it. I still think the Kitty Pryde thing is weird. Like I don't think we even really got a full explanation of her new power to send someone's consciousness back into the past. It just kind of feels like a cumbersome explanation to set up the premise for Wolverine to go back instead of just sending her back.
It's kind of heavy lifting. By the way, would it just make more sense to do Cable here
Maybe.
since they're time traveling?
Maybe, but I think also they're trying to make the point that Wolverine already had a relationship with Charles, and so they play really heavily on their relationship as this way to push the plot forward. But my immediate response to that is they didn't even have to do that. We didn't even talk about like how Charles very much seems at peace at the end of First Class, and he's made his decision to soldier on, to continue to build the school, continue to recruit, and teach new students. And we don't get any of that by the second movie. By the second movie, he's now like walking again, even though the first movie ended with him in a wheelchair. He's walking again. He's not using his powers because he's using this drug that stops him from using his powers. And we're treating him like a shut-in. And he's angry and bitter. And it's just like, yeah, again, it feels like there was something missing in between these two movies to get us from point A to point B.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's yeah, again, like that's a whole other and you know what? I don't know if there hasn't been a comic done that filled in the gaps. It's possible. There's so many X books out there at any given time, man.
Yeah, but I also feel like it's one of those, well, Wolverine had to be the guy to get him back on the wagon and teach him a better way because that's what Charles did for him in the original trilogy. And it's their way of justifying putting Wolverine in so much of this movie and sending him back to the past. But you didn't even need to do that. Like, you didn't have to do that. You could have just sent another character back and just had McAvoy as Xavier in a mentor role like he's always been.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have made sense, yeah. But you gotta get that Wolverine, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose we wouldn't have gotten a great scene with older Xavier talking to himself and, the great scene of like McAvoy and Patrick Stewart interacting. But I feel like you could have gotten another way to do that without doing this plot line of Xavier being like ashamed of his powers now and like using this drug that I don't know if there was ever an explanation as to how it gave him the ability to walk again.
So Beast, it was a thing that he gave himself and it turned him blue, but he had adjusted the formula to where it's still he can like turn it on and off, I guess. But yeah, I mean, because if you're paralyzed, you're paralyzed. I'm not quite sure
Yeah.
how that works.
And even the Beast stuff, again, we jumped forward. I felt like they rushed it in the first movie to make him blue and furry.
Mhm.
And then we get to this movie and Wolverine knocks on the door and he's right back to being human beast again.
Gotta see the actor, man. We're still very much into the mindset of we gotta see the actor, you know?
Yeah, it just feels like if that was the case, you shouldn't have rushed forward and just made him Blue Beast. Maybe you should have held that off for another movie.
Yeah. Can we say his makeup prosthetics look much better in this movie than they did in the first movie?
Yes, because
Much
he
better.
did not look great in the last movie.
No.
We didn't have the very awkward voiceovers either,
Thank goodness.
where it's very clear that that was not Nick Holt and they were doing the voiceovers.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing we missed was Azazel's plastic hair. That was the only thing we missed because that was very odd to me.
Boink Studios YouTube is the home of Tom Clark's 6M podcast. Tom Clark's Main Event, Bear Mode, a podcast review of The Bear, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Subscribe to the channel for archives that date back to 2014, with new content being uploaded every week. And check out boinkstudios.com for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Bookmark the site today.
Kids, there's no doubt about it. The bleakness of the future sequences as this movie opened is among the darkest in X-Men cinema, really of all time in any movie, I think, making Wolverine's mission feel immediate. And Phil, I think that's where it worked. You have to show the stakes are high. It can't just be another X-Men Save the Day and argue about who's right or wrong. Like it has to be, this guy has to go back. And I do kind of like the notion, if you're going to have Wolverine in it, I do kind of like the notion of nobody else can go back. I'm the only one that can because no one else could take it. But to your point, Shadowcat's the one with the ability. How come she couldn't take it?
I have no idea.
Because she's pretty, but she ain't as pretty as Hugh Jackman, I guess, is what I'm saying. So
Well, I guess their internal logic, other than just sending her back in time, not sending her conscious back, her consciousness had nowhere to go because she wasn't old enough. Like she wouldn't have existed in the timeline.
There you go. Well done.
But again, you could have just physically sent her back in time.
Yeah, physically.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, nitpicks aside about that, a lot of the stuff with Wolverine going back to the past did give us some great scenes, like him waking up in the waterbed and some of his interactions with younger Xavier and younger Magneto.
Right.
I did enjoy those things. I just wish we got there in a better way. The stuff with him and Beast, where he comes to the door and he's like, wait, you're Beast. He's like, we're gonna be friends right now. Friends, you just don't know it yet. Then he punches him in the face.
Yeah. The way Nicholas Holt sold that, by the way, as Beast is fantastic.
Yeah, so good. And then he comes back at Beast and it's just completely wiping the floor with him. And Xavier's like, what are you doing? Like, hey, calm down, get off the chandelier.
Yeah.
And look, on some levels, even though I said the Xavier plot point kind of doesn't make sense with the way they ended the first movie, I get what they're going for here. Because you're trying to go with this theme of where the country is and where the world is and the time that we are for the past. When we see Xavier in First Class, he's like fresh out of college. He's a professor now. He's still like wide-eyed, optimistic, idealistic, and he's in a perfect time to feel that way in that part of the 60s, because that's very much where the country was. By the Vietnam War and after the Cold War scare and like the assassination of JFK, the country was very much like kind of lost and you know, that was you saw a lot of like activism spring up. You saw a lot of cynicism in the world. And so, yeah, you could see Xavier taking a different stance. And I do like the idea of having a younger Xavier that doesn't have it all together and doesn't have all the answers and is ready to give up. I just wish that we got it wasn't like such an abrupt change. It's the same thing that I said with Magneto, where you went from, oh, this guy is justifiably trying to get revenge, and everything he says is kind of on the money, to him being just an outright villain in this movie. And the same thing with Xavier, where, oh, he kind of was at peace with everything at the end of the last movie, and then we get to this movie, and he's just completely given up on everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of one got up and one got down. Yeah. Because, again, the fundamental disagreements between two characters have been here since the first movie, been here since the comics, which I think is the backbone of this franchise, backbone of the books as well. I do like the way it all plays out, because I think by the end of this film, we have firmly established this is the good guy and this is the bad guy. Because were it not for Mystique, Magneto would have probably killed everybody there, and we'd be back in the same hot water we was in before, because he wasn't having it. He wasn't listening. He didn't believe, I guess, what Logan was saying. But like,
Yeah.
to him, getting revenge was more important. And Mystique saw through it and said, nope, I can't do that. If there's a chance Charles is right, I got to not kill this guy.
Yeah, that's something I don't love about Bryan Singer's approach to this franchise as well.
Hmm.
He refuses to let anybody else be the main villain in any of these movies but Magneto. And I think once you got the explanation that your older self sent me back to the past because you're making a mistake. Again, Xavier is telling you present day, you're going to doom us all. You have immediate proof that you did doom us all.
Right.
Your future self is telling you, no, I've seen the error of my ways. We're not going to survive this. And you're still just like, nope, answers to kill all humans. What?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it just kind of doesn't make sense. But in every Bryan Singer X-Men movie, Magneto is the main villain. That, like, even in X2 where they bring in Stryker, can't help yourself, still got to make Magneto the villain.
So let me throw it back to that. Should we have seen, like, I don't know, I don't want to go too crazy and make Arcade, because Arcade would be kind of nutso, but like Mr. Sinister, would that be too cosmic? Like, who would we have done? Maybe in addition to where Magneto's kind of forced to face off against this person.
Why couldn't the government and Trask be the main villains?
Why couldn't the government and Trask? Yeah, because maybe because they would need the Sentinels to be operational, because we saw Magneto could stop them without the technology from, the blood from Mystique. Maybe that's the reason they wouldn't be strong enough to come after them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
a good point.
Singer just cannot help himself. He's just like, nope, Magneto is going to be the villain. The third act will be everybody against Magneto.
Of course. Speaking of Hugh Jackman being the prettiest guy here, kids, we all know that scene. About 18 minutes, he's stark raving naked. And supposedly, as the story goes, he was supposed to wake up in a pair of boxers and that was it. Hugh Jackman said, nope, because in Australia, if you're lying next to a really good looking girl, you're not getting out of bed with boxer shorts on or anything else for that matter. So
that's great. I did not know that story.
It's good. But here's what I'll say to Mr. Jackman. We don't all look like you with our clothes off, sir. I'm just saying. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought the stuff, like I said, the stuff with Wolverine, once we get to him in the past, we do get some fun interactions with him. And even like their music change when he goes to the past is pretty funny. His exchange with Magneto on the plane is great. When Magneto again goes on his whole tirade to Xavier, and he's just saying the whole time, like, "Where were you? All of them died. You let us all down." And then Wolverine just sits there and he's like chomps on his cigar, like, always an asshole, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, you wanna pick this stuff up or what?
Yeah. Picking stuff up. That's good. Yeah, man. I was here for that. I mean, look, this is not to crack on the cast or even say that the story wasn't good. But was Jackman the best part of this movie in terms of the role? Because I think he kind of was.
I mean, he's been in a role longer than most people in this movie, and he's just comfortable playing Wolverine. Like, it's just what it is. And he was given a ton of great material to work with.
He was. Yeah, and he knows the character better than anybody. So speaking of maybe not being in the role quite as long, we mentioned Bolivar Trask. We have got to talk about the great Peter Dinklage because, buddy, I thought he was fantastic in this. He could have come off like a mustache twirling villain. I do not think he did. I think Kevin Bacon did more than he did in terms of, okay, it's a little over the top at times, even though I thought Bacon was great. But I thought Peter Dinklage was great. What's your take on him here?
Yeah, I thought it was great. His monologue when Stryker tells him, "Man, you really hate the mutants, though." No, I don't. And he's like, they're our salvation. And boy, if that is not on the money, if that is not a perfect depiction of bigotry,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of hate involved in bigotry. Um, but with the place we are in the world and a lot of these things, no. These people give us a threat. This gives us something to unify around, like to
Mm-hmm.
galvanize around. No, they're the problem. They're the cause of your problems.
Yeah, that's there's some political stuff in here that we're seeing play out years later. So maybe they
Yeah,
predict the future.
yeah. I thought that was great, and to see the influence of that on Stryker, and we see who Stryker becomes. I thought that made a ton of sense. Some of the more on the nose stuff, again, where they are trying to play up the fact that these movies are prequels, guys, and so here's a reference to something that's gonna play off later, like when Wolverine is on a plane and he unsheaths his claws in front of Magneto, and he's like, "Imagine if they were metal."
Yeah,
Ah,
dude.
uh,
Well, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. Say no more. Yeah,
they do that a few times here, and sometimes it works really well. Sometimes it's like, okay.
yeah, it's too much. Yeah. The cool thing about Dinklage, though, is that like he really connected to the character, which you always appreciate as a comic book fan,
Hmm.
and he actually connected it in a much different way because, according to him, with his dwarfism, he considers himself a bit of a mutant, in his words, and that he can't move metal, but he thought of it as self-loathing. Deep down, Trask is quite sensitive about that aspect of himself. Isn't it interesting that the Sentinels are massive? I
Hmm.
never would have put those two things together until now.
Yeah, I thought that was I thought that made perfect sense with how illogical hate is as well.
Yes.
Because you would think that Trask, as a little person, would understand how harmful it is to, you know, villainize someone just because they're different. But again, hate isn't logical at all.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
And
This
even his justification of like, no, I don't hate them. Yeah, but
you don't care if they're dead. That kind of sounds like hate to me.
yeah.
So the reason the filmmakers selected Days of Future Past here at Kids is because it would allow the filmmakers to reconcile any continuity dissonances within the X-Men film franchise. Time travel element also allowed actors and actresses from the first three movies, of course, to appear. Did they fix some things that were left hanging, or did they make matters worse by the end? Was there? I think they kind of left a few doors open, but I don't think it's the end of the world. Did they fix things more than they helped or broke? I should ask.
They did correct some things,
Mhm.
obviously. But some things just didn't make sense. I know that they tried to rectify things, but some of it didn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah. The way they try to fit things back in the storyline. And surprise, surprise, kids, Jean Grey's not dead. So that was interesting.
Yeah,
The way the film leaves off.
yeah. Big mulligans. I will tell you, as a big fan of Cyclops, and the older and older I get, I almost feel like it's a byproduct of this time period as well with the movies and the way that that Wolverine is pushed to the forefront. I came out of this time period liking Cyclops more and more
Hmm.
and feeling vindicated when certain comic book writers got him correct, like the astonishing X-Men run, and some of what was done with him after that time period. And so we get to the end of the movie and we see Cyclops back, James Marsden's back. I like applauded in my theater because I was like, yes,
That's pretty cool.
big Cyclops is better than X-Men, better than Wolverine guy over here. Sorry, bigger fan of Cyclops every day of the week.
Oh man, I do like he grabs Logan's hand. Like, what are you doing, man? What's up? He's like, oh, some things never change.
Yeah,
That
was
was
very
pretty
excited
good.
to see him again. Yeah,
Yeah. All the way back to the first film when he grabbed him by the jacket and said, "Hey, you want to get out of my way?" And then the way Cyclops just looks at him and then looks around him at Professor Zip to say, "What's happening? Who is this person?" Like,
who's this guy?
yeah, that look is so great. Like he's not bothered at all.
Yeah, and I don't think James Marsden gets nearly enough credit for how good he is as Cyclops in the first movie in particular. He's
Yeah.
off screen a lot in the second movie, but he does some great acting in the second movie, particularly in the scene where Jean sacrifices herself. He really kills it in that scene.
On the third movie, yeah. Yeah,
Well, in
he,
the second movie where she sacrifices herself and
oh,
um,
that's right. Yeah, my
they're on the
apologies. You're
jet.
right. Yeah. By the way, I've been encouraging you to watch Paradise. He's in Paradise, and he is wonderful. He's
Yeah.
so good. Such a great role for him. So if you ever check it out, you'll be happy to see him because every scene he's in is great. He's not too complex. There's some complex characters in that series, but he turns out not being quite what you expect. But he's fantastic. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, almost every time I see X2 now, I like repeat his entire monologue when he's like, no, lower the stairs, lower the stairs.
Yes.
And like when she does like sacrifice herself, and Wolverine's like, she's gone. He's like, no, don't you say that.
Yeah.
No, no.
Oh man, it feels like 100 years ago we reviewed that movie. That was a long time ago. Yeah, it's iconic, man. It's iconic in the comics and in the movies as well. The way they formed those relationships and kept circling back to them. I think it works. I mean, obviously it worked. They kept, as I was saying, they kept going back to them. What do you think about the plan? Look, we usually we get into the plot and we ask the question: does the plot work? Does the plan work? Does the villain's plan make sense? Does the hero's plans to stop him make sense? We know that Wolverine's sent back in the past. I mean, what works here for you? Because it seems like a pretty straightforward notion. Got to stop Mystique from killing Trask. Got to find a way to get there. Other characters are drawn into the plan as they go along. Quicksilver, real quick. I mean, that scene of him timing a bottle by Jim Croce that's playing, or is it Cat Stevens? I think.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, classic scene, maybe in any film, not just a comic book franchise, but they dragged him along as well. We come to find out, maybe there's some history there with him and Magneto. That elevator scene,
Yeah.
he's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Quicksilver here is fantastic. The use of him in this movie really great. Another attempt to top Nightcrawler in the White House, and absolutely did.
Yeah.
This is probably the most well-regarded scene in the entirety of like the Fox X franchise.
Yeah.
The way like people talk about it constantly and compare like remember that time period where like it was constant comparisons between MCU Quicksilver and Fox Quicksilver, just based off of one scene. And I really liked him here. I of course came away wanting more of him, and very much came away regretting that by the time we get to the next movie.
Yeah. He, Evan Peters, we know he came back for a Scarlet Witch. No, that wasn't, I can't remember the actor's name. We got the other Quicksilver for that show. That's right.
Yeah. So he's used very well here. That scene is great. All the allusions to his relationship with Magneto, the fact that Wolverine already knew him and he was like, "Well, I know him as an adult. He's a different guy now." But all that stuff is fantastic. The fact that he's just so he doesn't even look at himself like a mutant because he's just used to just running around and just doing whatever he wants. He's like, "What do you mean a mutant? What's a mutant?"
Right. Yeah. 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 I guess he messes with him too. But like, how do you like the way they handled his speed? Like with the Flash, every version of the Flash, we get the light. Of course, the lightning bolt is trademark. You got to have the lightning as he runs. I understand, but it's more of a zip around the dude. I was here for that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was great. My concern in after this movie was, okay, what are the rules of his powers? Because in the scene in the kitchen where he uses it, and again, fantastic scene. It makes it seem more like he's slowing down time more than he's actually running fast. It's just like, well, if he can run that fast that it looks like he's slowing down time, how fast is this guy?
Can he run into the future like Barry can?
Yeah. So, wait, what are the actual rules to his powers? Which is, of course, a very nerdy way to look at it, but
Of course, yeah, but that's what we do.
yeah. Which, by the way, was always the reason why I liked MCU Quicksilver better is because we immediately saw limits to his powers. Like the fact that he had to stop sometimes and take a breath before he kept running. It wasn't just like, he had like this godlike speed and there was never an explanation for it.
Yeah, I do love the bit where he's like, "Yeah, my mom used to date this guy." Like, you can see the character piecing together little by little by little what's happening.
Yes, which we get more of that in Apocalypse, which the less said, the better. I'm sure we'll eventually talk about that. But
I mean, that's next on the list. I hate to, I know.
Oh boy,
I know. But we're trying to complete stuff here, and it's
third movie curse, man. It's very hard to pull off that third movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Quicksilver is great here. The dynamic with him and Magneto, because again, you see that Magneto is just very careless in the way he just like goes through life. It's just like, I got a kid over here. Okay, well,
right, yeah,
kill all humans, man. Like we're right back to that.
Yeah. When it comes to Quicksilver, his speed is described as supersonic to hypersonic. He can run Mach 5 to Mach 10, which is around 3,800 to 7,600 miles per hour, which is quite impressive. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. Days of Future Past version, like we said, this is the craziest version visually because it absolutely is. Estimated at massively hypersonic, far beyond Mach 10, based on slow motion scenes. And then in Age of Ultron, much slower than the X-Men version, around Mach 1 to 3, which is supersonic. Fast enough to dodge bullets, but not freeze time visually. I mean, yeah. I mean, another way to think about it, kids, street level speedsters faster than cars. That'd be the MCU Quicksilver. And then higher tier speedsters faster than jets, comic Quicksilver. And then the cinematic speedster time freeze effect, that's X-Men Quicksilver. I guess it just depends on what level you're talking about.
Yeah.
So back to the plot real quick. We knew Magneto was going to eventually turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the guy's a full-blown heel basically all the time, despite all the nice stuff he said to Charles on the plane. But, like, did you feel like that was going to be inevitable? Like, the first time around watching this film, he's obviously going to turn on Logan and Professor X when the opportunity presented itself, because he sure did.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Singer has done this trick in X2 when they had their brief alliance with Magneto, and then he ultimately turned on them. So couldn't help himself to do that again here. I don't know that was really necessary to this plot, but we did it. Of course, we got to continue to like overcomplicate things, and maybe not overcomplicate things, but everything has to continue to get complicated. It can't be as simple as Wolverine went back warned everybody that what was coming. They got to Mystique, talked her out of killing Trask, and that's it. Okay, well, we got to break Magneto out of jail because, by the way, he's in jail, guys.
Yes.
So we gotta come up with an entire heist to get him out of jail. Then when we get him out of jail, we now have to stop him from trying to kill Mystique instead of just trying to talk her out of killing Trask. I don't know why. And then this is how funny this movie is, because great movie in some ways, but also it's the very clear flaws. The Magneto goes from, hey, humans are the problem, to, hey, we got to get rid of Mystique because she's the instrument to our destruction. And then when he's like, oh, well, she bled on the street, so I don't have any reason to kill her now. And it happened within like 10 to 20 minutes. It was like, for a brief second, he's like, no, I got to kill her. Then it was like, oh, well, it doesn't matter anymore. I'll let her live.
Right.
And it wasn't like he then immediately jumped to her side, like, yeah, you're right. We got to kill Trask. He's the problem here. And I kind of expected him to immediately do that instead of trying to kill her. I thought he was like, no, he would have been like, no, she's on the right side of this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get rid of this guy. He's the problem.
Yeah.
He invented these
Magneto
things.
was safely locked up in prison, not hurting a soul.
Yes. But again, you're trying to reference the stuff from X2 where he gets out of jail and then he immediately becomes a threat again.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, yeah, I don't know that we needed to do that, but if the nuts, if
Sure.
and butts were candies and nuts,
Right. Yeah. What did you think about the idea of making President Nixon in this movie when we didn't bother doing that in any other film with a realistic president?
Yeah, we get, of course, yet another reason for someone to do a Richard Nixon impersonation.
A bad one.
Yes. Yes. The JF Kennedy stuff was interesting.
Very cool. I actually like that.
I liked it a lot. That of course, because of the way that Xavier is paralyzed, he would be like, "Yeah, this guy in guns can't help himself. Who else would twist the bullet in midair and end up hurting somebody?" I thought that was a great. That was a great reference to the first movie and how he got paralyzed. And then he finds out, oh, well, I was trying to save JFK because he's one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Was one of us.
I don't know that I pieced together shooting JFK or trying to save JFK with Professor X getting shot. I don't know that I pieced that together. But it's almost like, was Magneto to some degree trying to make up for what he'd done to Charles in a roundabout way? Like he's the reason Charles got paralyzed, of course.
Well, there's two ways to look at this. He could have looked at it like, oh, I was trying to save him, just like I was trying to save Charles from the humans and trying to tell him at every chance, you cannot preach coexistence. And he could have been telling Charles in his mind, like, yeah, I was trying to help him. Like, they're the ones that killed him. It's just like he told Myra in the first movie, no, you did this to him. It's not me. So you don't know what the truth is. He could have been very much lying in that scene. Because
that's fair.
Again, he might have been looking at it like, I was trying to save his life. But at the same time, you put yourself in that scenario because you're probably trying to talk JFK into being your president and doing things your way.
And then it calls into question who actually pulled the trigger and how would he know if Oswald was indeed a patsy and there was somebody else pulling the trigger, how would he know who it is and how do he happen to be there?
Yeah. And so there's enough there to get you to question Xavier's paranoia because, of course, he don't trust Magneto at this point. He even says at this point, I'm never going back in that head again. So there's enough here to get you to think, okay, well, he just doesn't trust him because he's in this wheelchair because of him. But at the same time, there's enough here to go, well, look, you never changed. And we see that by the end of the movie that he did not change. So, yeah, it could have been like, yeah, he's one of us, but we very much also know about Magneto. If he were to realize that JFK was not going to go along with what he said, then he would have ended up expendable, just like everybody else.
Interesting. Yeah. That's a whole other movie. Because we didn't get the story. We didn't even get a flashback.
Yeah, but I just think the idea that we just don't know. I think it's easy to take him at his word on the plane of like, I was just trying to save him, but were you?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a good question. By the way, we mentioned Colossus, that's Daniel Cudmore. We never mentioned Storm. Halle Berry's back. Different haircut again. Like always changing the hair. Didn't have much of an impact in the movie, but at least she was here to bring the characters full throttle and all the way back around.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great to see her again. Boy, how much things have turned. Like, she was initially brought in as the big name in the cast in the first movie. And now in this bigger cast with multiple big stars, Hugh Jackman was the newcomer in that first movie. He's now marquee guy.
And I forgot to mention her till now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Crazy. Yeah, man. Things certainly changed for sure along the way. Well, kids, we know what it comes down to. Mystique's got a choice. What's she gonna do? She gonna pull that plastic trigger? She gonna do the right thing? Once again, we get Charles in her head talking about, you don't have to do this, and she's like, yeah, I do. And of course, she doesn't. And sparing Trask essentially becomes, you could say the fulcrum that reshapes history, prevents the dystopian future from ever happening. So the timeline reset, we touched on this earlier. There's a timeline reset. We get back. Wolverine's consciousness snaps back to a transformed 2023 where the future slaughter never occurred and characters long thought gone like Jean Grey and Cyclops are now alive, resetting the franchise narrative and open the door for sequels like X-Men Apocalypse. Aren't we glad we reset it to get X-Men Apocalypse, huh? What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the whole plot line with Mystique and, it could have been done a bit better, but there's so many great scenes with it, like the stuff with her and Magneto, where when Magneto initially tries to kill her and he uses the gun and the bullet goes out the window and follows her all the way down and he's guiding it the whole time. That was so cool.
That was so cool.
He's like dragging her across the street with the bullet in her leg. Really, yeah, Fassbender is such a great Magneto, just completely cold and ruthless. And then his attempt to like talk her down after he tried to kill her. It's like, well, look, I was always on your side. Like, what do you mean? It's just like, I'm here for my people. And he was like, you're right. Like this guy's got to go. And she gives him the great line, one death is never enough for you. It'll never end there.
It's great.
It's just like, but again, I think at this point, like she's so basically fed up with after 10 years of whatever happened those 10 years with him. She basically sees what Charles has been trying to tell him, like this isn't going to change. Like this isn't going to get any better for you. It'll always be this way for you. I don't care how many people you kill or whatever you do. It's never going to fix it. It's never going to change. And even the stuff with Charles, where Charles tries to reason with her when he finally gets his powers back and he's using Cerebro to have all of the people in the airport talk to her. I think that's one of the best scenes in the movie.
That's really good. Yeah. So was the payoff of her not pulling the trigger that was earned at that point? Because it made sense. We'd seen the entire movie of her basically, like you said, I've had enough of this guy. It's rhetoric by the time the end comes. It makes sense. But buddy, she looked like she was conflicted about whether or not to do this.
Yeah, I mean, with everything that she saw, I mean, we do get the great scene of her in Trask's office and she finds all of the files of the other mutants that he experimented on, including Azazel and Angel and some of the characters from the first movie. And it's like legitimately heartbreaking for her. And it's just like, yeah, he got to go. These were my friends. He had to go. And it's again the same thing as Magneto in the first movie, where you very much sympathize with her. Where it's like, yeah, this guy, this guy's got to go.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think that the redemption arc again would have worked better if we didn't jump from A to B so quickly. If there's another movie in between this, and it wasn't just like, okay, well, she left, but then by the second movie, she's immediately changed her way.
Mhm.
It wouldn't have been as jarring. And then again, you're trying to treat this like a prequel, and in the original trilogy, Mystique is a straight up villain for that entire trilogy.
Right.
She does not show any semblance of good, but you're backtracking on that for here to continue this backstory. Even boy, it when I rewatched it, I forgot that Xavier in the future, played by Patrick Stewart, gives that monologue where he gives the explanation of like, yeah, me and Mystique grew up together. I always saw the good in her, and I was like, this feels so weird him saying this when she fucking poisoned him basically in the first movie
Right. Yes.
with a device in Cerebro that harms him.
Yes. So let me throw this at you, because we know time travel is effing weird, depending on who's telling the story. Technically speaking, though, by the time that the end of this movie comes and it's 2023 and everybody's back where they were, and Jean Grey is no longer dead, and we assume that means that she didn't, X3 maybe didn't happen. So, like, what did the first X-Men movie look like after this movie? We'll never know because they didn't make that version. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's their way out, I guess.
Yeah.
Messes with your head, though.
Yeah, it's just some of the Mystique stuff in this trilogy is just it just doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Um and I do really like this movie, but like the stuff that they do with Mystique to justify the amount of screen time she's given and the use of Jennifer Lawrence just doesn't really work.
Hmm. Yeah, boy, she's really getting treated like the star here for sure.
And understandable for that time period
Oh
and
yeah.
the money she probably was making to do these movies. Her resume and accolades coming into this trilogy absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just so hard to go from Mystique the villain to this where she has like a whole full circle moment.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, because like I said, there's big chunks of time missing that we just didn't get. What would you have done for the second movie if you're going to save Days of Future Past for part three? That way we don't have to worry about that god awful Armageddon movie because we're going to review that thing. And it's going to be terrible. But like,
uh,
what would you do for part two then?
yeah, I did love that. In there are parts of this movie where she is just like going around and doing what we would think Mystique would be doing, being
Mhm.
like an assassin or doing espionage stuff. Like the scene where she's overseas and we get that version of "Stop in the Name of Love," which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, and she's just like infiltrating like these areas and like murdering people. And I think that kind of stuff would have worked very well in a second movie. Like just think about like if the second movie starts kind of in the same way that the first movie did, where Magneto is doing like these missions on his own to get revenge. And this time around, it's her showing up in all these places and killing people on his behalf.
Mhm. That makes sense. It would have been interesting to see because, like, we know the first movie took place in '62. That's the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yes.
JFK gets killed a year later in '63. So then we would have had they picked up a year later, the Kennedy assassination could have been factored into this film maybe, and then that would have been the thing. That would have been the thing. Maybe I don't know. Be interesting to see. By the way,
Um,
kids, that was Jim Croce that did Time in a Bottle, not Cat Stevens for sure. So there you go.
yes. Another interesting thing to think about with the Kennedy assassination that is kind of a theory. Um, Something happened between her and Magneto where she was just like, I have to get away from this guy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't not be entirely plausible that she also had something to do with the JFK assassination, and she saw that um no, this is who you're always going to be.
Mm.
You're always going to put yourself before everybody else. And
Hmm.
that's why, like, his explanation of I was trying to save him, maybe Mystique was there and she saw what actually happened, and that's what turned her away from him.
That's true. And plus the fact she could become anybody. Maybe she was with Magneto to a point. Then, like you said, that's what split them up, and maybe it has something to do with that. That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah. And that adds another layer to her line of, yeah, one death will never be enough for you.
Mm. Yeah. There is a road cut of this movie. It includes extended mutant fight sequences at the airport that further flesh out the time split structure. I don't know that I've seen the road cut. Have you?
No, I've never seen it. Of course, I've seen clips from it here and there. Um, that's where we get all of the Anna Paquin stuff that was cut from this movie.
Hmm.
Um, it is interesting that they brought most of the original cast back and didn't use Rogue for anything, especially because fans have been waiting so long to see Rogue at her full power cut loose. And in some of the fight scenes with the future Sentinels, there would have been a great opportunity to do that, and they just didn't.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Um, that would have been interesting. I maybe that I'm not sure where that exists, but I wouldn't mind checking it out. The Yeah, the road cut's interesting. Um, Not anything I've again that I've gotten into, but basically, kids, not to ruin it for you, but there are some changes that happens, and this is essentially, it adds, let's say, I think it's about 17 minutes of extra scenes to the theatrical cut of this film, and it makes several changes to the overall storyline of Days of Future Past,
Hmm.
allowing viewers to witness, two subtly different versions of the film. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to go down the rabbit hole of that because if it's subtle, it may not make that much of a difference. But also, it'd be cool to see her back again. Not sure why. That was an interesting decision that she was left out of this, or they cut it out, I guess, for time's sake, perhaps. Because she was such an integral part of part one. That whole plot revolved around her in part one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, wasn't even about Wolverine in part one. The
Yeah, and a lot of like 3 was like her choice to be cured, and yeah, we don't really get any more of her in this movie. It is interesting.
Yeah. The entire film, not the road cut, kids, this one. The entire film hinges on the belief that, even the bleakest future can be rewritten by choice and action, contrasting with many darker sci-fi time travel stories. As we've said before, it shows unity across generations. This is something that Professor X has always dreamed of. That's been his dream of uniting people and finding a way to coexist, as Phil said earlier. And then, of course, we've got identity and ideology, which is kind of always the theme of the X Men universe, but especially the First Class series of films. Um, I, uh, I, again, as we wrap this up, I did enjoy this movie. I, I enjoyed the first one. Part of me feels like I don't know if I call this one better than the first one. I think it's different, and I don't know that it's better in terms of, I didn't need that first one. I enjoyed the first one. But I think this is just a different film. So I don't know if I'm going to rank 1A or 1B. I mean, for me, in my opinion, though there's issues with both, this is still a really good film.
I think this is a better X-Men movie. When
Hmm.
we talked about the First Class, I felt like the strength of those movies, well, the strength of that movie, sorry, was mostly the dynamic between Xavier and Magneto. This movie, it feels more like a fully formed X-Men movie. Like there's
Mm.
more of like a, and I mean it's kind of a cheat. I was about to say there's more of a there's more cool stuff happening with the team and the team element around the X-Men, but it's kind of a cheat because they use the original cast to do that with the future X-Men.
Mhm.
But it still feels more like an X-Men movie than the first one does.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hard to disagree with that for sure. I think the only one we didn't really talk about was Stryker. Can I be honest with you? Besides connecting this to the other 3 movies, I don't really understand why we felt the need to put Stryker in part 1 or part 2. I don't think he even really has much to do here.
Yeah, it's
Tacked
like
on, right?
like yeah, like I said in the first show when we talked about First Class, this is one of those things where it feels like they go out of their way to do things for the purpose of it being a prequel, so they
Mhm.
can say, "Look, this is how Stryker got where he was." And like if we put Stryker in 2 movies, you see the development across these movies to get to where he was in X-Men 2, and I just don't think you needed that. I think, like, if you made these movies just straight up standalone movies or like its
Mm.
own multiverse, which we couldn't do at that time, it had to be time travel, um, it it would be different. You just didn't need to do that. And I agree. I just don't think Stryker really added anything interesting to this movie or First Class, or for that matter, I don't think he was that interesting in Wolverine Origins either. We get a lot of we get a lot of Stryker in these movies, and I don't think he really did much for me in any of them.
I could not agree with you more. Yeah, he never I mean, the actor's great, don't get me wrong. I can't remember the actor's name now, that played
Yeah.
Stryker. Great actor, but I didn't feel it. I never felt like when he was on the screen, it never felt to me like this is an X-Men worthy villain. It just felt like an army guy, like a military guy who was pissed off. I don't know. I never felt it, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, they of course took a lot of they changed a lot with Stryker the character from the comics because Stryker in the comics is a big religious fanatic.
That's right.
But they completely took that aspect of his character out for the movies and made him just a straightforward military guy.
Well, I guess that's okay too. Either one would have worked.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure that they did not want to get any hot water of offending religious people.
yeah, they don't need the church coming after them.
Yeah,
It's harder to beat the mutants are, I imagine. Brotherhood don't hold a candle those guys. So
yeah.
yeah, some Wrath of God type stuff coming if you do that. Well, kids, there you have it. There's X-Men Days of Future Past, a fun time romping, time jumping sci-fi comic book thriller there where you get to see Wolverine's butt. So, but also it's a fun movie, kids. I'm not crapping on it. I enjoyed this movie.
Uh,
And
well, to be fair, you also get to see Jennifer Lawrence's butt.
well, that's fair too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's Tale of Two Butts. How'd this show evolve to this? De-evolve to this, I guess.
Listen, the 2 stars of this movie, man, like we're gonna give them screen time,
I don't
if
what
nothing
now
else.
you're not kidding. Man, there's a wacky movie out there where she's nude on the beach kicking the crap out of 4 or 5 guys. Have you seen that?
No, I
I
have
don't know
not.
what the movie is. She is stark raving naked and she's beating the living crap out of these dudes barehanded.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I wasn't seeking it out. I just saw a clip. I'm like, what's this? Bam, there she is. So yeah, no shame, kids. No shame from me. Woman should be able to do what she wants to do on film or anywhere else. So perfectly fine with me. And Hugh Jackman deserves the right to show his butt because, buddy, he earned it. Look at him.
Hmm.
My God, we should all be so lucky to look like that guy. So I don't know how many problems you have in your life, kids, but I guarantee you 50% will be over if you look like Hugh Jackman, boys. I promise you that. So there you go. Before this thing goes downhill any farther, Phil, let's get your last word on X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah, very fun movie. Worth the price of admission for the future X-Men scenes at the very least. Um,
Hmm.
the and I mean, there's stuff in the past that doesn't really work as well, but I still think like at least you get the stuff with Wolverine and the stuff with his interactions with like the past versions of Beast and Magneto and Xavier. There's a lot here to like. Not a perfect film, but still for this franchise, it's one of the best X-Men films in my opinion.
Mm. I agree. I agree. And if you want further proof of that, kids, come back for the X-Men Apocalypse review, where
Oh boy.
that movie makes this and First Class look like The Godfather. So I'm just saying, makes it look like Tombstone maybe, or Jaws. Just insert your great movie here is the comparison I'm trying to make. Yeah. I don't have fond memories of that Apocalypse movie, but we're going to trudge forward. Neck deep in it, might as well keep going. So we'll get there next time, kids. Stay tuned for that. Or you can skip it if you want, but we encourage you to listen to it because at least we'll try to make it fun for you, even though the movie itself is not very fun. But tune in for that and check it out. X-Men Talk is always fun. It's always fun to talk about Hugh Jackman here, of course. So we'll do that next time. Thanks, as always, for following us on the YouTube, on Boink Studios YouTube and boinkstudios.com. Please remember to share the 6M podcast wherever you can. None of our content's behind a paywall on the YouTube, so please go feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to check out Phil on Grapsody. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. And we'll be back next time with a brand new episode of Tom Clark's 6M Podcast, kids. We appreciate it very much, and we'll see you next time. But until then, that is X-Men Days of Future Past. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.